Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
This podcast is proudly supported by Cooper's Ale House Jeps Cross and the ALH Group, Matt Hall from DR Kart South Australia, HandyPay, SA's leading personal lender, Patrizzi Course, and Tindo Solar, Australia's only solar panel manufacturer.
Everyone, and welcome to Negative Camber, another episode here with my good mate Leigh.
Howdy everybody, hope everyone's well.
And introducing, ladies and gents, one of our members, Mr. Simon Reichelt. Hello.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
How are you, mate? What's been happening?
I suppose apart from work, it's been a good day. Installed a new dishwasher before I come here, so yeah, good day all around.
That's when you know you're winning at life, when you're putting in a new dishwasher.
Yeah, girlfriend's happy, so tick that box. Night out.
Happy partner, happy life.
That's
I wouldn't say wife, but she might get a bit upset with that. So
she might start counting her chickens.
Yeah, she's probably sitting there at home using it, so hopefully it's still working.
Right. Mate, that's probably better than the day that I had. We had sprung a leak in the roof, so with all this rain, it was a flooded study, which is much to my wife's pleasure. Mm-hmm. So, I'd rather be installing the dishwasher, I think. But what about you, good sir? How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Look, it's been flat out, obviously working, and we've ended the sim season, so we're planning flat out for our new season. So That's taking up a lot of my time. Getting the posters out on Facebook and creating them's been hard work. So, yeah, otherwise, pretty well.
Yeah, good. We, I think probably fair to say we've actually recovered from the Tailem Bend event, so we'll get cracking into it. The Ferrari Club had their the Tailem Bend 100 as part of the Highbury Hotel Hire Kart series, and that was on the Monday, actually. Monday that felt like a Sunday. So, I don't know, from my perspective, it went pretty well, but I mean, that's pretty biased point of view, so I'll open the floor to you guys. How'd you guys think the day went?
Yeah, well, I thought it was a good event all round. Ran well. The Bend guys did an excellent job. They put in their extra effort the night before to get the karts ready, and I think that showed. I don't think we had a breakdown of go-kart at all. They all ran the whole 100 laps, no questions asked of them at all. Awesome vibe. Everyone was having a great time by the look of things, and minus your little stuff up with the champagne bottles, everything went well.
Was it his fault though?
No.
I mean, who doesn't bring some zip ties or hockey straps to brace the podium up, on a windy Tailem Bend day?
Some idiot. And what about you, Simon? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I had a great time. It was. I mean, my teammate thinks I didn't, but I had a great time despite what he thinks. He let me down, but I had a great time. Whatever. The whole entire day, basically, we got there, we had breakfast, everyone was all friendly, the guys were welcoming. We had a good time when we weren't in the kart, good time when we were in the kart. There was no real major incidents, so and then you had the lunch afterwards just to cap it off, and everyone no one complained. So that's probably the biggest takeaway for me. I mean, for us as a committee, it was the first event that we ran, and Adam wasn't there, and it was the first event for me running as president. So, and I say this with I would love to have Adam to have been there to race and be a part of the day, but it was a good thing that he wasn't there, because what it meant was that it was a clear statement of a changing of the guard. That the old president wasn't there, the person that it was considered to be his club wasn't there, and it was a chance for the new committee and the new president to assert themselves in a positive way. Not like a transition, just a full on. This is it.
But this is it, and know that the club is in good hands moving forward. So, there was a couple of little minor things that I suppose with an inexperienced committee running this sort of stuff, you get. And I mean, for me, I felt I was a little bit rusty. Because that was what I used to do 2 years ago. Yeah. But I think if the worst was really that we had a big breeze and the podium kind of fell on the champagne bottle, and a bit of the champagne fell onto the
would happen to anyone.
Podium.
Yeah.
There's a lot if that was the worst that we could take out of it, then we haven't done too
Good
bad.
day all round, I reckon.
Yeah.
Leigh still got covered in champagne at the end.
Yeah, I still got saturated, thanks, Mr. Denton.
Yeah.
And just remember, like I said to you, Josh, there is something coming for you, but you won't know when, and you'll hopefully remember why.
I love it. Succulent. That's what I call it. Succulent. It's not juicy, it's
He
succulent.
waited forever too. Like I'm surprised he didn't get bored of waiting for me. He's a patient little prick. But yeah, he got me good.
Yeah.
He definitely got me.
No, it was. We had probably about 50 people turn up between drivers and spectators, and some of them brought their families along and that type of thing too, which was great. Like, we haven't had that sort of volume of interest for a little while now, at least pre-COVID, to be fair. But I think a lot of credit's got to go to Sean and the team down there at the Bend for staying back the night before and prepping the go-karts, because I actually, from my own perspective with my go-kart, it was actually really, it was just nice to drive. Like, it was consistent. There was no, it didn't deviate from session to session. It was just a tank. It was just bulletproof, and it could have just charged along for another 100 laps quite comfortably. So I'm assuming that was the same for you guys as well.
Yeah, my kart didn't miss a beat, obviously, and I felt like pretty comfortable to drive. So felt good. Another 100 laps, it seemed like it would go quite well and bring on the 200. I'm saying already, like, I'm so excited. I told them when we left that they need to get 30 go-karts ready, because after the hype of the 100, the 200 will be a sellout no matter how many go-karts they put on the track.
Yeah, no, it's something that we're obviously geared towards. It's definitely, that was announced by the Prez on the Sunday, that November 28 is the return of the 200 officially. So that's going to be really exciting. Early indications are that we're only going to have a 20 kart grid, but we might push that out a little bit. I'm hoping it's going to be closer to 30, but that might be to the displeasure of the Bend staff. But there's a little bit of water to go under the bridge before we get to that point. But when you've got people like members from Queensland, like Michael Aquasanta, that are actually going to fly down from Queensland to race in the event.
Yeah.
Already they've made that intention clear. Well, then that says a lot about what this event eventually is going to sort of hold. Cool. So we've also made the decision to make it a class-based race, which is in tribute to yourself, because you came up with the idea. But essentially, it's going to be a pro-am and an amateur type class set up. So much like a proper endurance race that you'll see, like, say, with the 12-hour and that type of thing as well. So basically, the experienced, highly credentialed racers, like, say, a Josh Denton and a William Cowie, for example, they'd be a pro because they race quite regularly, KZ, etc. Your mum and yourself would be like a pro-am. And then you've got the newbies that just don't have any racing experience and are just participating. Your general club members would be in the amateur class. But what it also means is that everyone's got an opportunity to at least get something out of the day. Like, you're not going to rock up and say, well, bugger, it's
they're going to win because they've got all the experience.
Yeah, exactly right.
Everyone's got something that they can play for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to run through the results quickly, and then we can talk a little bit more about the race, because I know Simon needs to square one up with the Prez. So first was Dylan Richter, the Guns, and Luke Fraser, and then second we had Leigh and Ros Harrison. Josh Denton and Christian Cowie were third. Philip Doe and Hui Nguyen were fourth. Then it was Rob Cowie and Travis Milburn, Ashley Burbeck, followed by Jordan House, yours truly, and Joe Nero. You had Simon and his co-driver Simon Reichelt, then Matt Stead in 8th, Joe Balella and Nick Boomis in 9th, and then you had Armando Paradiso and Giancarlo Resignano, the first club champion, and then previous heavy class champions combined racing, and their welcome return. 11th was Chris LaRocca and Zam Papakrisiu. Then you had Kian Ha and Wesley Yang, followed by Mario Duva and Ashley Neighbour, and then Lucien Yang and Leo Yang. And then rounding out the field was Wes Cowie and Jared Barker. And we unfortunately did not start with Joe Santo and his co-driver Peter. So it was actually a really pretty competitive race. I mean, it was really sort of for the overall. It was more like a race of cat and mouse between yourself and Dylan. I mean, you squared off pole, mate, and by a massive 1.5 seconds, you were saying?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I mean, talk about your race, because it was really sort of between yourself and the Richter duo.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah, so obviously I knew what I had to do. I knew that Mum was not it's not her favourite track going up there, and she doesn't have the pace comparatively to the people that she would normally have the pace with at places like Paraka or Jeps Cross. I've done a million laps around there. I could pretty well drive it with my eyes closed, so I knew I had to get my head down and build up a lead as much as I could, because there were some fast guys behind us, like Josh and Christian were going to be strong, and Dylan and Luke were always going to be strong. So yeah, to qualify on pole, I didn't think I was going to be that far in front, but we obviously got a good few laps in, and then from the time the green flag dropped, I sort of had a bit of a battle with Simon here into turn one. I thought he was going to shut the door on me, but he was too kind for that. I think Dylan punted me up the butt to get me through on him as well, so we led coming out of turn two, and then it was just eyes forward and try and build a lead, and that's what we did for probably 25 laps. Come in, handed it over to Mum with a probably 40-second lead on the field, and then she said about it. Took her a little while to get in the groove, and we discussed it on the way home that once she got in the groove, she was down doing 68-second lap times, but she sort of 15 laps that it took her to get there probably cost us another 30 to 40 seconds in the race. So it was going to be cat and mouse, and then I got back in, and I think I was about a quarter of 2/3 of a lap behind Dylan. Chased him down again, just got in front of him just before, I think I led 10 more laps before the end of my stint, and then handed it back to Mum for her to bring it home and hopefully hold on to third place. And she did a great job. That second stint, she was straight into it off the start, straight into the 68s and 69s the whole session, which was good. And Josh Denton, I think, got within 10 seconds at the flag, but Dylan and Luke just too strong. Nearly got the lap up on us, but Mum just held on strong at the end.
Yeah, no, awesome. And definitely, you could definitely tell it was cat and mouse type of setup, at least from a spectator's point of view. And I mean, I actually missed the start myself. Joe, my co-driver, started, but I sort of got up to the top of the balcony and watched from lap 2 for a little bit of that first stint, and you were gone. See you later.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be of that sort of yo-yo effect, and how it was going to play out at the end as well. So
it's a tricky track to drive around there at Tailem Bend in a hire kart as well. We've talked about it before, and I've shared with some members how to drive the hire karts. You've got to really back up the entry on the corner so that you get a good exit. And a bad exit at somewhere like Jeps Cross doesn't necessarily kill your day, because there's not really a whole bunch of room for someone to go around you, so you can really block the track up and slow their run up as well. Yep. But you can't do that at the bend, so any small mistake that you're making becomes a massive mistake by the time you end up getting down to the end of the front straight. Like, you think the time that you're on full throttle from the time you come out of the second last corner at the bend till you get on the brakes at turn 1, you're on the throttle for about 15 seconds. So if you're a couple Ks slow off the exit of the last corner, you carry that for a long time. So that was sort of that's a lot of people's struggle at the bend, is you really got to think of it through and drive really, really finesse the go-kart around, which obviously I've learnt through having lots of laps and lots of practice up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and what about you, Simon? I mean, you were sort of right in the hunt in the early stages, and then kind of as the day wore on, it deteriorated, and some idiot with it wearing that yellow Rossi helmet with a presidential title, I think, used poor Matt as a bit of a battering ram in that last stint. So that didn't help.
Entertaining, but Matt was a little dirty on it.
Yeah.
But no, my day was good. I had a great start. Started P3 after what I thought was an alright qualifying, but it was probably an hour slower than Leigh. But got a good start. Went up between Leigh and Dylan. Then we were 3 wide into turn 1, and I suppose didn't so much let Leigh have it, but I probably went a bit wide, and I was never going to turn in on him, but I went a bit wide, and then Dylan come up the inside, and they both went through first and second. So
the price for being nice, mate.
Yeah, I know, it's a long race, so that was the probably the thought I had in my mind. But But yeah, the first stint, the first 25 or 27 laps or so that I did, was just basically second, third, fourth and fifth were all battling together, constantly swapping positions. I went from second to fourth to second, and I think the end of my final stint I did pit in fourth, but Leigh was so far ahead. It was like it was a race for the lead. We couldn't even see him apart from on the other side of the track when he was looking at us. But yeah, waved a couple of times, but he didn't look at me. A bit busy up there.
Had the race face on. My head was down.
Focused on smashing the fastest lap of the year probably. But yeah, then handed over to Matt. He did drive a good stint. We had a slightly understeering kart. I think it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was bad at all. But I've been there before. One time before, same sort of conditions. It had rained that morning and it was cold. But yeah, I definitely had karts that have turned better there. But Matt doesn't handle that, I think, as well as I do. He's not just So his wasn't as impressed with his performance. He handed the kart back to me on lap 50. I think we were in 7th. And then my whole stint, my second stint, I just followed Dylan. He was leading. I followed Dylan, but I was a lap down. So the pace was there, but Leigh come flying through, lapped me, and then took the lead and tried to watch what he does, like you say you do, and he must be doing something with his pedals that we can't see, because I swear I was taking the same lines as him. It just wouldn't go as fast. But yeah, gave the kart back to Matt in 7th, and I thought we might have been safe for 7th, but yeah, the president come through and gave him a little touch.
Pushed him out of the way.
It wasn't as bad as it sounds, but I only caught the end of it when I was watching from the balcony. But it was just a little touch. But
Miscusi.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you drove away in your fine form that you had in that last stint, and Matt came home and we finished 8th. But yeah, I had a great fun. I don't really care where we finish. It's just fun battling with everyone, and Leigh puts you in your place, but with everyone else it's really good. So I was a bit worried Dylan owes me one for a recent event somewhere. But yeah, he was nice to me. He didn't punt me off at all.
I think he might have got me and you confused in turn 1.
The
way that he hit me,
counts, and it's not still coming,
the way he hit me in turn 1 was good.
I had a great time. So yeah, I'd happily do 1,000 laps. It was whatever. Yeah, you can't fault it. It was just a good day. So anytime you can belt around for that long in a go-kart, it's good.
Yeah, for us, like from my perspective, Joe Nero started the race this time because it resulted in me doing the final stint, and he qualified sort of mid-pack, or it was about 10th, I think it was, something like that. And our strategy was to sort of play the longer game and get him to play himself into the race. And he worked his way up into the sort of the bottom sort of half dozen. So we came into the first pit stop at around about 8th or 9th, and then I had my stint, and I felt good. Like I'd sort of been putting into practice what Leigh and I had been working on the 4-stroke side, and that seemed to pay dividends. So I was, a lot of my time, plus obviously losing 11 kilos helps. Mm-hmm. So, I wasn't losing as much time down the straights as what I would have been in the past. So we handed the kart in for the main stop, which was the refuel, and I'd sort of worked us up into 6th. And then Joe, we kind of hovered between 6th and 7th for the rest of the day. So in that last stint, I didn't actually realise that Matt and I were for position, to be honest. I just caught up to him
out of the way like he was anyone
else.
I
thought, nah, mate.
Bashed them all out of the way.
It's like, out of the way, boys, I'm coming through.
I am the president.
No, definitely not like that. I mean, I try and race as clean as I can, and
not much people do. Yeah,
it was a couple of times where it got a little bit testy, but I think the move of the race for me was I came out of the pits out of the last stint, and I was behind Armando, and we were nose to tail, literally nose to tail. Coming out of turn 1, I think it was we did one lap together, and coming out of the straight, one of the girls had come out of her pit stop, and Armando went to try and lap her, and they were nose to tail coming out of turn 1, going in through the sort of the left right into turn 3, which is that 180 degree bend left-hander, and Armando went one way. And one of the other competitors were right next to each other, and I sort of was caught behind in the middle, and then Armando sort of, for whatever reason, moved out a little bit, to take a wider line going into that sweeper, and I've actually gone straight through the middle of the both of them, and without any contact on either side. So of course there was a bit of the ego got in the way, and the visor going, how good is this? This is fantastic. And then I got caught up in a couple of little skirmishes later on, and then lost the position to Armando again, but we were already ahead from a lap distance perspective. So I measured myself against Josh because he came past and lapped me towards the end of the race, and I was held my own with him, so I thought I'd try and sit with him for as long as I can, and you always learn off someone that's racing at the national level, and I was quite proud of the fact that when Craig, his dad, came up to me then, he goes, mate, you were sitting with him for a while, and I thought, I know that they were right side down on the wheel. They must have clipped a curb early in the stint, so the wheel was a bit down on that right side. But at the end of the day, Josh is probably 30 kilos lighter than me. He's
differences.
So to get within sort of half a second of his lap times, even going through traffic, I was pretty stoked with that. So overall, I think from our perspective, to finish inside the top 10 and really outside of the light guys and those that racing tag 125, we were probably the first of the really mixed weight combo, because there's good weight difference between myself and Joe. So we were both really happy with how the day went out, and it's a juggling act between thinking about racing and then running an event at the same time. So I think for our first event as a club, it was under the new regime, it was a success. And hopefully we can build upon that. So
I think the racing standard was good too. Like you guys were saying, you had a few good dices in that battle pack for the second through to fifth, and whenever I caught someone and passed them, there was always pretty fair and hard racing, which was good. And I had a good battle there for a few corners with I think it was Cowie. Rob Cowie and a couple of other guys. So just the fairness in the racing. No one was out there to punt each other off the track. Everyone's pretty well stayed on the track. From what I saw anyway, like I'm sure there were a few small incidences around the place, but all in all, I think it was a pretty good standard of driving, which makes me look forward to the 200. Hopefully the same sort of level is brought to the 200, if not even a higher level. And we can have some more fun, double the distance.
Well, the other thing to note too was, and it goes to show about the quality of kart that the guys at the Bend put, but if you look at everyone's best laps, you were obviously 65, 1 minute 5, right? And then you had Dylan with a 105.3. Josh's best lap was a 106.7. You had Philip with a 105.9, Rob with a 106.3, Ashley Burbeck with a 106.1, Joe with my co-driver with a 106.9, Simon with a 106.1, Joe Balella 106.6. So, and then you go guys that are in the sort of the 107s. So there wasn't a massive, when you think of the track being 1.2k long, a huge variance in driver ability, experience and skill, and then you throw the weight component into it, to have kind of let's say 2 seconds in round numbers gap between the absolute fastest and the slowest, right, is fantastic, really, when you think about it. So it says a lot about the quality of the driving, because there wasn't any really major incident. They all walked away with all the karts were largely in the condition that they started in. So the guys at the Bend would love that, because it just means that it's less repair work. They don't have to worry about anything from that, mate. So before we go on to more motor racing stuff, I thought we'll throw the spotlight onto you, mate, because you're obviously one of our members. But how did you hear about the Ferrari Club? And I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you've got a bit of an interesting story on the personal front.
Well, to answer your first question, Leigh was the advertisement, I suppose.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Just doing my bit.
Yeah, it was more. I was going to Jeps Cross and all those places, and that's, you go with your friends, but most of them, they're not racers, they're not whatever, and most of the time they don't want to go because you'll just beat them, or you want those people to race against that are like-minded and obviously similar pace and that kind of thing. Exception is Leigh probably, but so I said, what's the deal here? And at the time he told me to message Adam, and everything just was quite easy from there. It was all linked to this, linked to that, and joined. I did my first first event at Jeps Cross without like any membership or anything like that. I just thought I'd see what it's like first, and it was a no-brainer. Once I was there, everything was cool, and everyone was welcoming, and had a good time. And it was just, it's competitive, but it's still just that step down from the stress levels of preparing your own gear and that kind of thing. So it was just I was always going to do the whole thing, and just the first one just was perfect answer. It sold it to me straight away. So
fair enough.
Communication was good and everything.
Good. And I think that you sort of encapsulated it well, and we've tried to really emphasise that in the podcast previously about the club. It's that it's from guys, and we'll touch on your other racing exploits in a sec, but for those that race at a higher level, like for us, KA or KZ, or from a karting perspective, or like Dylan, for example, he's gone from sort of bitumen racing onto dirt. It's higher pressure stuff there. There's money, your own money involved in that sort of thing, and you're investing your time, and you want to be competitive, and you want to go out there and win races. And I always say that when you're racing at that sort of domestic level, regardless of whether it's grassroots or not, right? At the end of the day, you're there to win, or be, at the very least, be competitive, because that's when it's fun. The fun part is always driving and that sort of thing, because of the speed and the adrenaline and all that sort of stuff. That's fun, but it's no fun doing it on a race weekend and you're miles off the pace.
That's right, yeah.
Right, it's it's boring.
And you've spent $100 million together.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So the fact that you can do that and enjoy it and not have the responsibility per se of the kart, you hand it back and it's the up to the facility to maintain it. The pressure valve's gone. It's more enjoyable that way, I think. Yeah. So
and everything's equal too. That's the that's the main thing. Yeah, you're Jeps Cross, for example, and the Bend as well, probably. But your karts, there's probably no more than a couple tenths difference between them. They're and that's just whether they've taken a hit or not. Really, they're all quite good. So everyone's got a chance. It's just up to your ability and how far up you want to finish, and how aggressive you are or aren't.
Yeah. I think something that highlights what the club's all about as well, when Simon will attest to this, is you don't actually we do share a common interest for most of us, that we do follow the Ferrari Formula 1 team or have an interest in the Ferrari Formula 1 team, but I don't know, you're not their biggest fan. You don't walk around in Ferrari merchandise and have a Ferrari blanket cover, but you come out for the social aspect and the competition aspect of having like-minded friends and stuff to race against. So, like I said, you don't have to be a Ferrari enthusiast to join the club. You just come for the social aspect and knowing that the people that you're going to be entertaining yourself with have a common interest in motorsport or that sort of culture.
I do feel more comfortable wearing my Ferrari Ray-Bans though. I've had them for about a year and a half now, and found a place to wear them comfortably.
But touching on that, I think it says a lot when we get messages like from Michael, who lives in Queensland at Bundaberg Kart Club, saying, mate, myself and my mate, we're going to fly down and we want to do a high kart race. Yeah. And for me, that was awesome. And Michael had only heard about the club through the podcasts and that type of thing as well. So to make that sort of commitment, and I know he'll do it because we've been speaking on and off since then, to make that sort of commitment to come down and participate in the higher kart race and meet us and enjoy it, that's awesome. And if someone like that can do it, then there's others that have been sitting on the fence that do I this and that. If those guys are prepared to do it and put their own money into it, come out and race, well then others can do it too. So
even if it's not to race, like even if it's just to have, you want to come out and talk motorsport with people that love motorsport. It doesn't have to be that you want to race. We're not just about the social karting, but there is a very social aspect to those karting events, and I think that's what people at the Bend really liked. The ones that weren't competing, the family members were surprised at how social and how welcoming everybody was, and the actual good time that was had off of the track and not just on the track as well. Yeah,
and that's something that we've always tried to do, even from the club's initial stages, right from day dot. But, for me, I'm very much family orientated, as you could tell, and I treat everyone as if they're my own. That's the philosophy that me as president want to have, and Adam did the same thing too. Let's not sort of differentiate that.
Yeah, it's a culture it's been there before.
Yeah,
Just keep
and
it
it's
going.
one that we're trying to sort of really amplify. So I know that you were saying aftermate there were a few of the guys and gals that wanted to sort of put the memberships in and that type of thing too. Which is, when you hear that, that's awesome, because it means that we're going in the right direction. Now you do you're off road. You've obviously racing outside of what we do here at the Hire Karts, mate. So just tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I run Formula 500s, which is on the speedway. They're a small version of a sprint car when you look at them. Very much different when you look closer. They run a 600cc bike engine. We run on methanol like the sprint cars, but we're not that much slower. When the track's really slick, we can be very much the same pace. But yeah, when on a fast night, might be only a second slower or not much different to that. But yeah, the racing's still pretty wild. I don't know how those guys do it in a sprint car when I feel like I've got no room in my car and it's one third the size. But yeah, the racing's always competitive. It's more, it's about confidence more than anything. I feel like saying it's like 90% confidence, but it's also a massive percentage of car setup. You got to know what you're doing. You got to make changes. You can't just be happy with what you've got. You go out the next session or the next heat race and the car doesn't work. The track's changed. You got to stay in the game. So, like when your kart track changes with rubber, ours dries out with the sun. If it gets cold, it gets moist. It's a bit of a battle sometimes to chase the track, and then you got to worry about all the other cars out there. So, but yeah, I love it.
It's Team 51.
Yeah, so I mean that's just my own team. I've been racing since 2008. I had sort of a couple of seasons off, which we'll talk about soon, I'm sure. Only a year ago or so, but in that time, I built up my own inventory, I suppose, and had enough gear to run like a fairly decent series a couple of years back, and we ended up finishing second in the series, which was quite good at the time. My own ability, I suppose we might as well talk about it now. My own ability was probably...
Who's the amateur that had his mobile phone go off?
Right.
Bloody presidents. Jesus, sorry, mate.
Yeah, so I suffer from a condition called cystic fibrosis, which is probably known to people. Most people know someone with it, but they wouldn't know what it is or what it does, or unless they're really close. So basically, the main symptom is that it fills your lungs with mucus. So like I was living a life where, as if you had the flu, I had that 24/7, and my whole life was just spent trying to clear my lungs out. They were just filling up with mucus, and for me to even be on the racetrack a lot of the time was quite difficult, let alone preparing the car, and my health was just not good. If we talk about lung function, a normal person can have anywhere from 100% to 130% lung function at the worst of times even. I was racing when I was sort of as low as like 22%, 24% lung function. I didn't weigh much. I weighed 48 kilos, which you might think is an advantage, but when you can't hold the car, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
I stopped racing. I didn't stop racing. It was a bit of a wind down. A few years back, I wrecked a car twice in one night at an Australian Championship, and all my gear went both nights. I suppose both accidents. I wrecked all my spares in the second heat, so that kind of ran out of stuff. But then someone else gave us a car to run for a season and a bit, which was very generous of them. But at that time, I was getting worse and worse, and it was sort of at the point where I'm gonna have to stop this, because I can't prepare the car, let alone do 5 laps in it. Like it wasn't good. I was really weak, couldn't breathe. I could do 2 laps and then I'd be done. We do finals at 20-30 laps, and there's no way I was going to see the end of those. But I mean, in saying that though, in my time, like 2015-16, when we had that good season, we did win a couple of feature races, and I might have won 10 or 12 heat races that season, and we got our shit together, and I did bring coins for the swear jar.
Good boy.
We got it together, and we sort of made the car suit me. So I was driving to get around basically, but it was the direction we were going in that I had to be able to drive it, and we just happened to get the car really, really good. So it did actually work out quite well. Had a lot of help from other, I suppose there's some sprint car teams and a few others, that a lot of shock information. There's quite quite a bit of help. I learned a lot about shocks, which made a big difference in how I drove, and how the car felt, how heavy it was on the front end. And yeah, I suppose my knowledge got quite good, even though my physical ability wasn't there. So I had the time off from, let's say, I think 2018 season. I completely missed that.
Yep.
And I got listed to get a lung transplant, which was June 2019 that I got listed. I was 19% lung function as well, and I couldn't stay out of hospital. I think in that June period, I spent 5 out of 8 weeks in hospital. Things weren't good. I just go out of hospital thinking I'm good, and I'd be back in a couple of days later. I just couldn't breathe, couldn't get rid of a headache, couldn't get rid of rib pain. I'd cough, ribs were broken, all sorts of things were going on. It just wasn't going well for me. So luckily I only had to wait 3 months. I was playing my sim actually at home while my mum was in Egypt. I just qualified on pole actually in a sprint, just saying, but yeah, just qualified on pole, and my phone started ringing. I thought I've got a bit of a countdown. I'll answer it quickly, and this nice lady just said to me, "Oh, is that Simon?" Yeah. She's like, "Oh, I've just got a set of lungs here for you," and I was like, "What?" Like, hang on. Yeah, she didn't sound like the type of person that would be telling me that. She was too relaxed, and I suppose she just said she'll ring me back in a few minutes with some flight details, and yeah, I was like, all right. So I forgot about my race, and that was the end of that. But yeah, everyone, I suppose it was 8 o'clock at night or something like that. I was home alone, and normally the process is for getting a call for transplant is that they basically send you straight to the airport, put you on a plane. Melbourne was my destination. The Alfred Hospital is where they do the best job, so that was where I was going. But luckily, they didn't have a flight, so I didn't have to go till 6 a.m. the next morning. So I had the chance to have a bunch of friends around it. I mean, it was midnight, but had a bunch of friends around to sort of say, good luck, and I suppose see you as well, because I had no idea if I was coming back. Yep, they were going to take the middle of me out. So, but yeah, that all went smooth. Like I said, my mum was in Egypt, so she was supposed to be my carer, but my sister had to come.
Yep.
So yeah, we went over at 6 a.m. I think 8:30 I was having my 3 chest hairs shaved, and they put a couple of cannulas in me, and then I just had to wait for the lungs to arrive. I actually beat them to the hospital. I don't know where they came from, like logistically. But yeah, they I don't know where they came from, period, to be fair. But yeah, they it was 11 o'clock or something like that, and finally they were ready, and my sister was saying, "You're scared?" I'm like, "No, I'm pretty rooted if I don't do this, so I'm going in."
One way or the other.
Yeah, she had her cry, and I was just like, "See you later." And then I woke up 20 hours later, I suppose, in ICU, and they did warn me I might not be able to talk for a couple of weeks, which was not the case. Straight away I took them half an hour, but straight away I said, "Get this tube out of my throat," because I was trying to signal that, I suppose. But yeah, they were happy to take it out as soon as they could. So half an hour I had the tube out, and I was talking, and I just immediately, before I had the tube out, I knew I was better. I just, I've never had that much air in my body, and things were circulating properly, and the feeling was just different.
Wow.
I had tubes hanging out of me everywhere. There was things in my neck. I've got scars everywhere, and obviously I had a million stitches across my chest, and but it was, no one, I feel like no one will ever know what it was like unless they've been through it. It's just something that's incredible. Like, you wake up, and it's so hard to understand, or to put into perspective in your own mind that you've got someone else's parts inside you. Like, obviously organ donation is a thing, and it is real. I do encourage it, clearly. But yeah, it's changed my life, absolutely. I've returned to racing. Obviously, I'm doing karts as much as I can on the higher side, but just for the winter time. But yeah, when summer comes around, we're full steam back on the speedway, and yeah, it's just I've done 4 meetings. So we had that lockdown in November in SA, which was meant to be 6 days. So I thought I'll build a car. Turns out it was 3, so that got rushed. But yeah, we did 4 meetings from December, February, and March or April. It was a new car, so everything was, and a new me, so everything was different. Yeah. But yeah, by the 4th meeting at Mount Gambier, which I think you touched on in a podcast before.
Yep.
we had a solid night. Just everything was good. We were second or third fastest car in the night, and had a fuel issue in the feature race. Finished 6th, but just for me, the difference. I was running up high. You can run up near the fence. I normally couldn't do that before. I just couldn't hold the car. So it's like a whole new driving style, a whole new car setup. Just everything was new, but it was just so much better. Just even we haven't perfected it yet, so the upcoming season should be pretty good for us, I hope. Just it'll be a complete season like I've never had before, so hopefully we can do some good stuff.
This will probably sound like a really silly question because the story is fascinating. I know you and I talked about it a little bit off air like weeks ago, but how life changing, like your perspective on life would be completely different. It's not your second chance.
Couldn't dry myself when I got out of the shower. That way, I'd just sit there and drip dry in the heater, like the heat lamp, or use the hairdryer if I had to go to work. Just to dry myself. I couldn't do that action basically. I couldn't put a sentence together without having a cough or without just being purely exhausted. Everything is completely different. There's nothing, even eating, like, I put on 20 kilos as well. I have an appetite now.
Doesn't look like it, mate.
Yeah, it does. It does. This guy, does. Leigh's known me. He's known me for a long time, but he's seen me. As long as I've known him, I haven't been great, but the difference now is, there's not even words. There's no words that you can say that it's just completely different, and you have to feel it or you have to see it, or. I've got people that I haven't seen for a little while and they say, oh, you look good. And to me, I just feel like I look fat now. But they're like, oh, you look so healthy. You've got colour. And, I don't know what colour I was before. But it's just my life is nothing like it was before. So it's, I've kept all the good stuff. I don't have to change everything. But, I don't even know how else I can say other than my day-to-day life is like, it just feels easy now. That's the thing. It is easy. So nothing I find difficult. Yeah.
Do you do you race or like do some stuff for charity and that type of thing? What with the organ donating side?
Yes, the organ donation side only to a degree at the moment. So the COVID thing's kind of put a dampener on what we do. But we have run an event called like the 65 Roses Championship or Cup, depending on the year. Which is basically a Formula 500 event that originally was at Adelaide, at Virginia. Then we moved it to Murray Bridge, I think in about 2013 or 14. And every year it's just been gaining momentum. One of the years we had 58, 60 cars or something like that, maybe even more. And it's just gotten... We try to do a different format, like a unique format, so that people... just to have that interest, that different, something different. So we'd have, like there was one year we did an event where it was a 2-night show, which is what this year will be as well, where we, wherever you, after your 2 or 3 heat races, wherever you were on points is where you started your final. But if you started, if you started 18th on points and you finished second in the AMA, and you actually get the guy that finished second's points. So it's just something different. You steal his points. If you could have started last, but actually end the night high points man, so because you won the final. It's just something different. Probably confused a lot of people, but it was it confused the people that went backwards. But that was a cool night. Actually, one of my best friends at the time, he won that 2-night show. With one of those passes that you just think, oh my god, like you shut your eyes, and he looked pretty spectacular from where I was. But he just massive slide job and a little bit of contact, and you think they're all in the fence, but nope, he came across the line with a lap to go, and that was pretty sweet. So anyway, back on the charity point, we raise money for CFSA, so Cystic Fibrosis South Australia, which is where a lot of the funding came for me to have the transplant. So now this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but it costs $6 million to do the transplant. Obviously that's covered, all of it's covered by the government or however they work it, but for me to actually stay in Melbourne for what was supposed to be a period of 3 months, including rehab, CFSA, they fund that, they give you $5,000 or whatever else you need, and they get you your accommodation, and they look after you the whole time basically. So they handle the whole process. So never had an issue raising money for them. They not just the transplant side of it that they do, but also just as a general CF patient before transplant, they'll cover your gym stuff and anything to try and help you with your fitness, because that is difficult to do anything.
Yep.
As you have just heard. But so the event is still, post transplant, the event is still the 65 Roses. That's what it's based on. We still raise money for them, but we also put in that organ donation element into it with sort of signing people up. We can take control of that. Doesn't even take a minute, so we can get people on board to be organ donors, which somewhere down the line I might need another one. You never know. So or someone might, anything could happen. It's hard to say. You don't. You might be the donor, you might be the recipient, but at the end of the day, it saves a life. So it's very important. But yeah, I'll just touch on the 65 Roses part. Might sound funny, but the 65 Roses is actually just a little boy's take on cystic fibrosis. So that's how the charity got its name. It's just easier to say for a child, and they've I guess the logo and all that kind of stuff's roses, and it just worked out that way. But yeah, it's something that is used nationally, worldwide. So we call our event that, and it's getting bigger every year. So hopefully, obviously we didn't have one the year just gone, but yeah, this year should be good.
Well, mate, as president of the club, to hear that story, it's an honour, and to have someone like yourself with a story like that as part of the club, and for you, I'm thankful at the fact that you get to participate in what we do, and that's and I'm sure that there's other members in the club that have got not stories of that sort of severity, but everyone's got a story that they can bring to the table. So one of the other things that I like about the club is that we're non-discriminatory. We're obviously gender neutral, and to have the ability to be so open about it, mate, that's props to you. I mean, it's I'm still sort of floored by the extent of what that was, because I can't imagine you with that sort of capacity. So how did you meet our mate next door? What was the relationship between you and Leigh?
It's TAFE, wasn't it?
Yeah, TAFE.
Yeah, we were in TAFE together in 2005.
Yeah, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
We did a
Certificate 3 in motorsport.
Yeah, and we were pretty crap at the welding and automotive side, so we were in charge of like the newsletters and doing all the stuff that looked good from the outside. So, but that still got our ticket through.
Yeah. Now I know why you're so handy with spanners. Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, we couldn't weld shit, but I
can drive,
can
type.
That's cool.
Type, and
we've got to be good at some of them.
Can public speak apparently. So
we actually put a sprint car together for that TAFE course. It was more we rebuilt one, but it was quite a long
process.
Yeah, it was, and I feel like for a couple of years after that, you basically lived with me.
Yeah, we worked together for a little while too. After that, we went and did sign writing together, but pretty much at their house all the time.
I cooked him a lot of dinners and whatever while we're on MySpace.
And watched a lot of Formula 1 in those years.
You were cooking him dinner?
I remember cooking him schnitzels and stir fries. And I don't know what he did, but
I think cut vegetables.
You lazy prick. Bloody hell.
I folded the ham around our hundreds and thousands biscuits so that we could eat.
Don't knock it till you try it. It's literally the slogan.
Honestly, TikTok biscuits with a piece of ham wrapped around the outside of them, it'll change your life. Maybe not so much as a lung transplant, but it'll change your life.
I needed it during it. It was there when I woke up.
So that's sort of been like nearly 20 years.
Yeah, well,
15 years.
15, 16, But significant part of that, we were stuck together. I think my bedroom at my mum's house had 2 beds in it, one was his. We were pretty inseparable for a while. Plus he didn't have his license forever, so that was his courier.
That was important.
But whatever we did, we were always together. It was cool.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It's I'm still floored by the story.
There's so much more to it. Like I could talk about it forever, but obviously this podcast is not going to, we'll have to go to work in the morning. But
mate, we did a 2-hour bloody interview with
Pod with
Todd. So
I mean that's cool. Todd was cool. So I'm not going to say that was good. But do you have any weird questions that you want to ask? I'm open to anything. Like I'm an open guy. You can ask anyone. Can ask me anything, anytime. So.
I've got nothing, man. So I'm still like. I can't imagine 22.
Off the floor.
Yeah, pretty much, and it takes a lot for me to put my jaw on the floor, especially with the size of my mouth. But I'm stunned. Like, it's for me to. You're right. You can't comprehend, what you've gone through, and I mean, I used to be an asthmatic when I was a kid, and so to have a portion of my lung capacity not functioning back when I was younger, I could understand that, and puffers and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, my daughter Charlotte's a little bit of an asthmatic, but it's mainly sort of sickness induced.
Yeah.
But not to that extent. I couldn't imagine what quality of life you would have had. To be honest with you,
I made the best of it. Like I'd never. I raced as much as I could. I did whatever. I knew I couldn't go the distance most nights when we had a big feature race, but I made sure I won heat races. I made sure I did. When we had hot laps, I made sure I was as good as I could be. And I have such a team around me though, like my best friends, and they, like Todd and Matt, and there's Grantley, there's Leigh, there's a whole heap of them that they got around me, and they could see that I wanted to do that, and I needed to enjoy my life because I didn't know what sort of
life you'd have.
Expiry was. My best before wasn't. My best before was probably
You're
expired.
close to it.
I was. I can probably 98% say I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't get that. So I went to Singapore for the F1 in 2018. I was taking a ton of drugs at the time just to survive. I reel them off. The list is massive, but badly the airline lost my luggage on the way. Oh, God. So I actually got to Singapore, which I could barely walk anyway, but I had to go. F1 had to go, and Matt and my friends that were with me, they looked after me so well. They went and did their stuff. I stayed in the hotel when I had to. They tried to find my luggage. It took 3 days before I got my drugs, and I was almost gone. Like, that was just about my breathing, my regular breathing was so loud, like just the wheeziness, and the humidity over there was just killing it.
Especially that time of year.
That was probably the biggest struggle I've had. I've been to work conferences in Queensland as well, where like other store managers or whatever that are there, they carry my luggage for me. I just couldn't do it. So there's just things that you just wouldn't expect. On face value, apart from how skinny I was, I would have looked sort of relatively healthy, but just couldn't do anything. Like I said, I just keep talking forever. It's just so many things. Yeah.
Well, on the professional front, what do you do for a living? What's your job?
So I'm a super cheap auto store manager. I am the Whyalla store manager. I have been since 2017. I was previously an assistant manager since that store opened in 2015.
Yep.
I've been with the company for 13 years, like this week or something. 13 years now. And I've been at other stores, Manapara, Salisbury, Elizabeth, in my time. But the Whyalla store is where it's at. It's next to my house. It's all my friends shop there. And
yep.
Whyalla's not a huge town. It's 32,000 people, but literally feels like you know everyone. So get them in there every day. Every customer knows my name, and most of them I'll know their name. So it's I do my best. I'm actually nominated for Store Manager of the Year in the National Retail Awards.
Oh, cool.
So I'm currently going through the process of my application, which is very it's probably the most stressful thing I've ever done. Just trying to get that sorted so I can submit that within the next week, and then you go through the finals and whatever. And just being nominated is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah, just to say that I've been nominated, it's the best of the best in retail. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah, it's I've always, even my health sort of held me back with that. Just I was always a positive person, and my motivation mentally was always high, but I'd be dragging myself over the line just to get to work. And I suppose now I have the absolute ability to lead by example. I can do anything and nothing. I fully feel like if there's something I can't do, then fair enough, someone else doesn't have to do it. But if I can do it, everyone else should be able to do it. So I sort of lead by example. And I think my team at my store do a great job, and they follow me with my I suppose my ambitions to make the store the best.
Yep.
And it's nice to be recognised by that with the awards. But come shop with us. We're cool.
Oh, mate, again, what a story, and it's great to have you on board as a member and a supporter of the club. And yeah, look, I'm sure there's many more stories. We could probably dedicate another podcast. So, hey, mate, you can even come on to the radio show. Yes, you heard it. We are going on the radio, aren't we, Leigh?
Apparently. That's what I've been told.
It's happening, yeah. We a special thanks to Armando from Unique Stone and a long-time member, foundation member of the club, board member as well at one stage, or committee member, I should say. And he has done some work with Radio Italia FM, or Radio Uno Italia, and sort of got on the phone to me once I found out that I was president, and sort of said, I've heard the podcast, and you should have you thought about going on Italian radio? And I said, well, it'd suit the demographic. Why not? What have we got to lose? So one thing led to another, and we are doing the show every fortnight as of the middle of July.
Yeah, 18th of July we're on first show.
Yep. So it's going to be exactly the same format as this, but interactive. So we get people that can actually ring up and talk all things motorsport, learn stuff about the club. We've got to radio fight a little bit where we've got to put some music and stuff in place. So, I'm excited.
Send us your music requests.
Yeah, DJ Leigh in the house, Waka Waka and all that other stuff. So, but yeah, it also means that we've got to be G-rated with the language as well, which is a challenge for me.
You've brought it back after the last...
You're doing all right.
I've done okay. I have brought it back.
Go back and listen to the first one. You'll be pleased with how you go.
Do you know what? I was listening to the first one the other day just out of curiosity, and we sounded like, unsure. Unsure. Like, I think this is going to work, and I think this sounds okay.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I think we've got our volume levels sorted out as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's come a long way.
Yeah, 100%. It helps when you get a decent mic as well.
Yeah,
but we're looking forward to that. It's going to run every fortnight consistently, and from 7 to 8:30 at night. So nice sort of lead into the F1s and motorsport. But it also allows us, the listeners, to take part on a much more interactive basis as well. So we do have dump buttons though, so be nice. We can dump you off the air, and
my in-laws have already said that they're going to ring up and give me hell. So
this would be great. I'm looking forward to this. So yeah, but keep an eye out for that on our Facebook pages and social media as we start to do some promo work leading up to that as well. So. All right, into the racing, gents. I was going to say ladies, but there's none here tonight. No. Bianca's out. But we had Festival State Cup at the second round for KA, which was the state series, and that was held at Whyalla over the weekend. And so, probably fair to say it was interesting from a club perspective. We'll probably cover just a few of the members that went up there to race. My brother Anthony went up there and my cousin Nick on the four-stroke side, and Craig Denton raced in the Supermax category as well. So Anthony's story, I guess, was one that he got his go-kart. Anthony's preparation was not key. He's recently got a go-kart, and it was built or put together with a really short period. I mean, poor Matt, unfortunately, was struck down with the flu, and Matt's one of those guys that he still wants to deliver. So under the weather, he built Anthony's Tony kart up, and they picked it up the Thursday night. So Anthony hadn't had any testing with it whatsoever, and drove up to Whyalla on the Friday. Probably the early sessions were character building, to say the least. So they had it was a good opportunity for Anthony, I think, to understand what's required to run the kart, from a mechanical perspective. So he got out there first session in practice and lost a wheel with a rear wheel 3 laps in. So he didn't do the wheel nuts properly on the kart, and then sheared a hub, and then the wheel passed him, and they're probably still finding the wheel nuts as well. Somewhere in Whyalla
as well.
Yep. So and that was my practice set too. So they went promptly in the bin straight after that, and I think Anthony lost another practice session. He went out on new rubber and then spun it and beached it in the sand trap. So and then so he was copping all sorts of rigmarole from other competitors, little jabs and jibes and this and that. And to his credit, he was sort of ringing me up in a bit of a panic, and on our team chat, communicating with us, and we pretty much said, look, just chill, don't put any pressure on yourself, and it's a glorified test session for you. And to his credit, he basically, addressed the bits that needed to be fixed up, tidied up a few little bits and pieces, and qualified, and then finished all the races, and then, was actually really competitive lap times wise too. So for someone that had a very limited build up to be within a couple of tenths of the leading guys pace wise, he was really happy with that. So he took a lot away from that from the weekend.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, so in his class, he was in the heavies. So I'll just go through the top 5 quickly. So Daniel Bowden ended up winning the final. Probably he had the perfect weekend. He was pole, pretty much won every race. So you couldn't ask for anything better than that. You had Dave Harrison second, Tim Murphy, who was running 2 classes, in third, Andrew Gunn fourth, and Clancy Venables in fifth. In the medium class, my cousin Nick went out there to race in 4-stroke. First time ever at Whyalla. So got there on the Saturday morning and probably had a limited practice session. So he was chasing kart setup. And then he was a little bit rusty. He hadn't raced since February. So first race going into turn 1. Sent it, did a Leigh Harrison, sent it, skittled half the field, but ended up coming out and finishing overall top 5. So Callum Fry was the winner there, Mark Paneris was second, Joe Baroni third, Mark Sanford fourth, and then Nick came in 5th position. So in the lights, we didn't have any people participating in the lights, but Brock Harrison was first, Anthony Ormsby second, Jeremy Smith third, and Nick Torquati Jeremy Smith third, Nick Torquati in fourth. In the Supermax, now that was actually a really good battle. It was Craig Denton out of the blue comes out with his Praga with a Supermax on it, and it was a battle between Craig versus Tim. And Tim's really sort of been dominating that class since he sort of started racing in it. And they were separated by tenths of a second over the weekend, and they I think in the pre-final came together in a bit of a clash on track, which resulted in Craig going off, but Craig returned the serve, and in terms of not hitting him off, but he ended up winning the final. So Craig Denton was first, Tim second, of course, James placed third, Andy Ritter fourth, and then Steve Skinner in fifth. So a nice result there for one of our members. And then in the Cadet 12s, our new recruit, Ocean, was in ripping form. So she, first time ever at Whyalla, and was always in the top 3 or 4 for the whole weekend, and ended up actually, her father Danny was, he and I were talking on Saturday night, and he was sort of working on setup on the kart and pretty much threw the kitchen sink at it, so wax stabiliser bars on there and all sorts of bells and whistles, and she came from third in that heat and ended up winning the race by about 2 or 3 seconds, and then ended up finishing second in the final overall. So Noah Enright was first, Ocean second, Riley Harrison third, Mitch Burgermeister, so the team Burgermeisters finished fourth, and William Cowie ended up coming home in fifth. So overall, it was not bad weekend for our members. They acquitted themselves really well. So we actually were racing next weekend at the Southern Go-Kart Club, and we're all going to be under the one marquee, which would be good. So to be looking forward to that. SRT is
hopefully the rain stays away.
You're there, mate. I'll give you boots. I'll give you coats. You're my man. You're my spanner boy. So I need your automotive TAFE skills now. So and besides, I need someone.
I spend most of the time on the computer typing up newsletters at the TAFE. So if you've got a laptop and I can write the newsletter, then I'll be happy.
Write down his notes That's what he does.
Yeah.
He changes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, the thing that I heard about Whyalla, it was a bit of a challenge from their point of view. They had a power blackout, I think, that stopped. They had probably about a 40-minute delay, I think, on the Saturday night, and it looked like at one stage they were going to run the whole race meet on the Sunday, which would have been interesting. So, it was... but, I mean, a lot of the drivers actually really enjoyed the track. The surface is actually quite unique in the respect that there was only real one racing line. So if you stepped offline, even if it was half a kart length, you're off into the bushes. So, which is... I don't think any of the other circuits to that degree in SA have that sort of level of punishment.
It's just a usage thing.
Yeah.
It's just a usage thing, and they've resurfaced it. So, the fast line's always going to get more use than the non-fast line. So it'll come with time, though. They'll rubber it in.
There's that little S-bend that leads up to the uphill rise, I think turn 2 and 3, where in the 4-stroke you're more or less flat out, depending, I think, on the time of the day and tyre condition. And that looked pretty cool. Even in the 2-strokes, they were great.
You're flat out through that in most classes.
Yeah.
Even in X30 when we raced there, that was a slight lift or just ride a little bit of brake pedal.
Yep.
So, yeah, even faster 2-stroke cadets would have been flat out through there. Most classes are flat out through that S-bend. It's like I said, it's a technical track. You don't expect it when you go there.
Yep.
You think it's going to be, quite flat and not really much characteristic behind it, but it's got some really cool features once you get there and start cutting some laps around it.
Yeah.
I said the cambered corners and that little uphill section that you spoke about.
Just the outgrid's weird.
Yeah.
It
used to, before they did the extension, which is where you go up the hill, you used to go through that little left, and then as it turned right, you went immediately left again, and that back straight was only half as long as it is now. So that was a tricky track. We held a South Australian Open state title there. Maximum grid capacity was 20, and we had 20 on the grid in Junior National Light. So that was fun. By the time sort of lap 4 or 5 sort of reached, you were more than catching the back end of the lap traffic, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's the lap times weren't that long too. It was like 30 seconds or less, depending on the class. So you didn't really have much room for error if you binned it.
Error, and you don't have time to rest either.
Yeah,
you're just
exactly.
flat out the whole time.
Yeah, so I also like the fact that the finals were actually of reasonable lap distance. Now, I'm assuming that that's because of the track length.
Compensate.
But the 4-strokes are even having like 16, 17 lap finals, I think it is, which is great because other circuits only give you like 10, 12.
Depends on the type of race it is too. If the Festival State Cup has written the regs that they're going to have a 10-kilometre long final, that's 10 laps at Monado, but it's 18 laps at Whyalla. So it just depends on what level of sup reg it's written under as to determine how long the races have to be.
Yeah, make them longer, I say. How good was the 25 lap stint at
wasn't long enough.
Tailem Bend? It wasn't long enough, but
no.
I mean that's 25 laps at the Tailem Bend with 1 minute 7 lap time.
Nearly 30 minutes.
Yeah,
nearly
it's
30
half an hour
minutes.
kart,
And you earn your keep. I'd love to have 30 minutes in the go kart. That's when you earn the big bucks of $5 trophies and plastic cups and stuff like that. So, all right, I reckon Formula One. A lot to cover in that one. So Baku was run last week.
Yep.
Cracking race. I love Baku. I really do.
Never failed to disappoint. Maybe
100%.
the first race was boring. The first time they raced there was a bit of a snooze fest. But since then,
no way.
No, the second one was
The second one was
yeah,
a snooze fest.
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah. But we're prophets here at Negative Canberra. We called it.
I did call it. Yep.
You did call it.
Yep.
And we not say it was a topsy-turvy race.
I know what you're going to say. I picked him in qualifying, thinking, and then nope. I changed my mind for the race, but yeah, you were right. Yep.
So if we cast our minds back to the last podcast, the prophet here, the Mr. Leigh, was on the money and called Perez being the man. And I reckon if I remember correctly, I'd mentioned things like Aston Martin and the like in there too. Yep. So we're going to channel our inner prophets and come up with our predictions for the next Grand Prix,
and the lotto numbers
as well, because we all need it. So Sergio Perez was first, Sebastian Vettel second, Pierre Gasly third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Lando Norris fifth, Fernando Alonso in sixth. Then you had Yuki Tsunoda in seventh, my boy Carlos Sainz in eighth, Daniel Ricciardo in ninth, and Kimi Raikkonen rounding out the top 10. So it looked like it was going to be a Red Bull demonstration run in reality. And again, it highlighted the deficiencies that Mercedes have at the moment, in particular with building up temperature and tyres. And fair to say that it didn't go to script with sort of 10 laps to go. The race really turned on its head, but there was twists and turns all over it. And I guess I think the thing we need to sort of highlight initially will be the Lewis and Max battle, because obviously Max was going to win the race and then ended up putting it into the wall. Not his fault, mind you. And then Lewis had his moment and had the opportunity to actually take the race, take the win, and then rebuild his sort of 13, 14-point lead, and threw it away.
Bottled it.
Yep.
Well, we've spoken about this as well. Like, I think I said maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago that these guys, Mercedes, haven't been challenged. Lewis hasn't been challenged in 6 years. It's, besides Nico. And the only other time that they did have a challenge, when it was inter-team challenge, they were crashing into each other and the wheels fell off. So to have this challenge come from an outside team, the pressures has shown Lewis has never made this many mistakes in this early in a season. We've seen him put it in an offence in Imola. This weekend he's thrown it off, forgetting to press his magic brake button or pressing it accidentally. They're just rushing things. So
the team as well, though, you have you look back over the last couple of years. Probably the couple of most significant ones were when George was in the car, the pit stop muck up. That was. It might not seem like such a big deal, but it probably was a huge pressure moment. Like, they've got George out there, he's going to beat Bottas. What are we doing?
Yep.
Obviously it wasn't they didn't mean to do it. But yeah, obviously the pressure was on for a lot of things. Would have changed if he won that race, I think. But yeah, going back further though, Germany 2018 when they had their retro kit on and Netflix were there and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And Lewis had like a minute something pit stop, and they just don't seem to handle the pressure well, or when it's even close.
Yeah. We touched on the last podcast where we say that you can guarantee that Mercedes can have at least one shocker.
Now they've had 2 in a row.
Well, they've had 2 in a row, but it
nice.
looked like but it also they're fighting. Because it looks like the first part of the weekend, you're looking at the results and you're like, wow, these guys aren't even going to make Q2. Like, they were not even going to get out of Q2. And to their credit, they, Toto was on the, on Sky Sports saying, we've been experimenting and all this sort of stuff. And they wing settings and all sorts of stuff. And then they come out and you think, okay, they're back. All right, they were sandbagging the whole time. But then when it came to the race and Red Bull got the jump, in particular in the second half of that race, you would have said Lewis third and Max walks away with a 14-point lead, and you think, wow, okay, they haven't had a lead deficit like that for probably about 3 or 4 years. And Red Bull wouldn't seem to be the sort of team this year that would bottle an opportunity like that consistently, like, say, Ferrari did in the past. So you wouldn't. This championship's going to be about the teams more so than the car itself, because
it's going to be about who fucks up or who stuffs up the least.
Got to practice for the radio show.
Yeah,
get it right.
Almost call myself up on it too. It's going to be about who stuffs up the least.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be interesting to watch that battle unfold.
Yeah, but I suppose touching on that whole magic button thing. To explain it to those that don't really know what was talking about, it's Mercedes have got this button that actually transfers the brake bias to the front, in particular when they're warming up. So all the brake pressure is going to be on the front portion of the brakes on the car.
60-odd% apparently. Something like that.
Yeah, which is pretty significant. But hence why when Lewis pulls up on the grid, the car is just smoking. There's that much heat build up, which means that he can go hard into a first turn that's very short, like Baku, and brake later and win the corner. And he actually won the start. It was his for the taking, And then obviously, now I looked at the replay and I couldn't see where this. My theory was that he was pressing the button on the top left of the wheel. but it's behind, is it? Yeah. And I was going to say, you couldn't tell whether he'd pressed it or whether he'd hit it or whatever, because it wasn't like there was any significant bump. I almost think that he'd pressed it and then just didn't.
Yeah, his own opinion was that when Perez came over, that's when he sort of freaked. He does move his hand, but I think he's turned it off and turned it on, and then he's done it twice, thinking he's only done it once. Maybe that's probably where it's at. Probably done it. It's an unusual restart.
Distracted.
Things were different.
Things were different. Yeah.
He was saying all that stuff on the radio about being, we
marathon, not a sprint.
We got to, bring the car home kind of thing, and he completely. I mean, we know when he talks about tyres, he makes all that stuff up, and none of it's true anyway. So it's just another, I suppose, way to psych out the others. But they don't hear it, we do.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's it goes to show that he's clearly human, and he's going to make the odd mistake here or there. So either two things are going to happen: that trend's going to continue the longer the season goes, or he's going to dig deep and really find that polish. I know. I was listening to the Autosport podcast post-race, and they go through each individual team, and the first thing that they said post-race, they'd never seen Toto so dejected and disappointed and frustrated and angry because all these errors are coming in, and the drivers are not on the pace, and Valtteri is clearly nowhere. This year he's miles off. But Valtteri, for example, is just so inconsistent.
Yeah.
He struggles with the front end more than Lewis does, though. So when they're not heating up their tyres like they do in Monaco, there's no DAS, like Simon just said.
Exactly.
He's struggling with that lack of tyre heat the most, because he's been quite reliant on having those good toys to play with as well.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, he was probably going to get a podium in Monaco, and that was the team again.
100%. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's been punctuated by bad luck, but then when he's needed to be on the pace, he hasn't been on the pace.
He's not there.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is now Red Bull have finally got a driver that's matching and if not exceeding Max in some respects, but can take up the slack when Mercedes are having a bad day or their drivers are inconsistent. So
the roles have almost reversed.
100%.
For Red Bull have been looking for the last few years to have a rear gunner for Max to help him out, and he never came. The rear gunner never comes, so Mercedes had it easy. Now all of a sudden Red Bull have got the rear gunner, and Mercedes have let their rear gunner go away, so they're having this sort of tussle as to who's going to have the stronger second driver.
It exposes the actual gap between Lewis and Valtteri, because I mean, they had such a car advantage before that second place was sort of always on the cards generally with the Mercedes. Now that's fifth, sixth. It's not. The gap's closer. That he's not close enough. Something's going to change. I've seen a couple of things. Something was going to happen this week with George, but nothing's come out. I've even seen something about Kevin Magnussen. But it's all just speculation. So there's talk, so the pressure will be on him.
There was talk that Mercedes was going to make an announcement at the British Grand Prix that George Russell was going to sign on for Mercedes next year, and Valtteri might be making a play for Alfa Romeo. But I'd almost see
together at Alfa Romeo would be cool.
You know what, though?
Will be there.
I think Giovinazzi would feel like he'd be given a raw deal. He's actually been very, very good this year. Very good this year. And look, the reality is that Kimi also can't go on forever.
That's right.
So, I mean, he's in his 40s now.
So is Alonso.
Well, yeah, exactly. But, at the same token, those guys are only going to be there for a very short window of time. A couple of years, and that's the end of that. And the reality is that they're not going to win a title any further. They'd be lucky if they win a race, Having said that, knowing this weekend it'll be another chaotic race and it's going to be that topsy-turvy, who knows?
I'd love to hope so, but I just don't see that happening.
Poor you. It's okay, mate. It's all right.
I think it'll be a better race, but it may be a better race between Mercedes and Red Bull, but the rest of the field will...
We'll get on to France in a sec, because ironically enough, Red Bull's change in form has been around street circuits, the last two events. So whereas prior to that, Mercedes, even in particular in Spain, were a lot better pace-wise as well. So if you go by the trend, you would expect a much better performance from Mercedes this coming race. But we'll have to wait and see. So
I think we are definitely going to a Mercedes track, so to say. But it's not just been street circuits that Red Bull have been good at. Max was fast at Imola. He was there or thereabouts at Bahrain as well. So they've got
more. Mercedes dropped back, and then Ferrari obviously they got good mechanical grip, so it made the front look tighter. Ferrari forward, Mercedes back. But I think now it'll separate.
It'll settle down again.
On Team Red, their form in the last couple of races, at least qualifying wise, has been exceptional. I mean, Charles is starting to remind me of the Charles from 2019. And clearly they've made ground up with their power unit, but also the chassis work that they've done, in particular with getting tyres up to temp really quickly and medium and low speed corners, which was they've done a complete 360 compared to last year.
Massive difference.
So which is great. I mean, the sport needs to have a competitive Ferrari team. Absolutely. You can't have them languishing at the back. They're too historically significant. They're too much of a player in the market to not have them there. They need to be competitive. So but I think again a good test will be where they're going to be in France, I think. I'm quietly confident they're actually going to be better than what people think. I think they'll be probably maybe best of the rest. It'll be a tight tussle between themselves and McLaren.
And
I would suggest. Yes,
I mean,
we'll get on that in a sec.
I think probably the most important part is that learning that information that your car is good on a street circuit. You've given yourself sort of a base. They change stuff so often in F1, like the development race is insane. So they might be onto something already, and I mean, you don't know, they could have something that suits France better than we think. I still expect them to qualify reasonably well, but the race pace probably won't be there. But McLaren should be far better with their longer wheelbase that they have.
Pirelli have also come out and said that it was they came out with the results of their tyre issues, and it was actually user related, is what they were saying. So the teams have been pushing the limit, I think, a little bit in terms of tyres and pressures and that type of thing.
That's what they're there to do, though. Like, the stuff that Pirelli gives is only a guide of where they want to be. Not everyone's running exactly to how the Pirelli specs come out. And
that's the garage tyre pressure as well. So that's the debate. So they'll go out and it was a circumference issue with the tyre. So obviously the tyre pressure got too great. I mean, personally, I still think it was debris, but the tyre circumference got too great, which, I mean, that comes down to how quickly the tyre heats up, I suppose. There's probably, to a degree, a lot that a team can do with how their tyres do heat up. You've seen like the magic button and DAS in the past, but if they're setting the tyres at this certain tyre pressure so that it doesn't go too low, but then it's ending up too high, I mean, they need to have some kind of control. I suppose it's got to be during the race. They can't, I don't know how they can do that, but I mean, I suppose it's not really the best thing. But in speedway, we run bleeders. Your maximum tyre pressure, if it goes over a certain, you don't want it to go over, say, 10 psi. The bleeder will, if it gets to, it'll drop it back. So that's something that surely that they've thought of before, and I can't see why that couldn't help moving forward if that is the real issue.
Well, you've seen it in other levels of motorsport as well. I mean, they've had tyre blowout issues in the past, and then Pirelli have gone down this path of being stringent with starting pressures. In the V8s, it's been the same thing where, Dunlop have been running their tyre now for their same sort of level of tyre now for quite a few years, and there was a phase in particular, I think probably about 2 or 3 years ago, where teams in particular at places like Phillip Island were getting blowouts, and that's kind of stopped a fair bit now because of the control that Dunlop had. So it's a sport. Even with us, when we're racing, we're always testing the limits of tyre pressures and what's the minimum that we can go and what's the maximum that we can do, and you find that compromise. Yeah. So even at grassroots level, it's still going on. There's no debate there. But
as much as you don't like seeing people getting crashes, and you definitely don't want them to get hurt, a bit of unpredictability never killed anyone either. So,
100%.
It brought that race to life in the last few laps and gave us a different finish than what we were all expecting. And lots of people tune out of Formula One with 15, 20 laps to go because the winner's the winner. From that far back, but not on the weekend. You didn't. It just gives you that hope back that something might still happen. It gives you the reasons to watch. And
yeah, exactly right. How good was it to have that sort of short sprint format,
race,
2 laps race?
It felt like it was going to go that way, but then you sort of thought, what was the point? And it's definitely a good point. But yeah, from the outside looking in, it probably seemed like a bit of a strange thing to run a 2-lap race. But we're going to be moving into sprint races, so good preview.
Yeah, there was no reason as well. Formula One run to a distance, and they've got two ways to determine the finish of a race. If it cannot be restarted, or if it can be restarted, and you get to the final distance that was allocated for the race, whether that be time or laps, and the race could be restarted, and we could get to the final conclusion within the time frame that was left over. So there was no reason not to restart the race in my eyes, and that's I'm glad that they did it. It gave us
everyone's glad.
Yeah, I think everyone's glad. Gave us hope that this sprint race thing could actually maybe work. I still think once the first 2 or 3 laps of that sprint race is over, it's going to be pretty much the same as a normal race. But like I said, I'm glad that Massey made that decision to continue with the race because it deserved its end and it deserved a proper end.
Yep.
And then if he'd canned that race under a red flag, it throws up all sorts of other questions like, do you go back to the last full racing lap that was completed, and then Max still gets the win, right? So there's lots of other complications in that sense as well.
Most people remember what happened back in 2003 at Brazil when they red flagged the race. I mean, they were past 75% distance, so it was all good, but the actual finishing positions they got wrong. So it seems a bit weird to go back to the previous finish lap because they end up counting the car that caused the red. It's from an entertainment perspective, he's making the right calls. I think all the decisions they've made this year have been
based on entertainment.
Yeah, more of a show aspect. Obviously there's a safety element, but in terms of restarting the race, it was a good idea, for sure. Everyone's talking about the 2 laps, not the rest of it. So
100%. But how good was it to see Vettel back and in form?
But 4th place would have been mega. He ended up 2nd, so you think that was cool.
Yeah. I think he's definitely turned the corner and really started to get comfortable with that car now.
Yeah.
And Aston Martin have clearly made some ground back up in terms of where they started at the beginning of the season. But they've also noted that they've now started, a lot of their wind tunnel testing is now being directed to next year's car too. So I think majority of the teams outside of the top 2, you'll probably start to see plateau. But even then, how much resources do Mercedes and Red Bull put into this year's title? And then what do you sacrifice? So and the changes are that big next year that you can't really afford to get it wrong.
Toto's already said they've started focusing a little bit on next year's car, but how much of that is true, and how much exactly are they focusing, and is that why they're all distracted and making so many mistakes this season? But it's going to be interesting to follow that one out for the rest of the year.
I think you brought it up last podcast about Ricciardo, like the theory behind Ricciardo. You could say the same for Bottas and whatever, but realistically, how much of this year's car is going to be usable for nothing? It's all ground effect and it's the engine side of it, but there's not a great deal that you can actually spend 5 races or 6 races so far testing and compromising your championship position. So
it's actually funny though, on Fox they were showing some retro races going back early 80s, so 1982, so peak ground effect turbocharged era, and they were showing the 82 San Marino Grand Prix, so the battle of the Ferraris where Didier Pironi pulled a Swifty on Gilles, but the racing and how close they were able to get to one another and the passing, it was brilliant, literally nose to tail going through the old Tamburello and passing, and it was ground effect. So if they can kind of replicate that, that would be brilliant. But then you look at the front spoilers and the rear spoilers, there was nothing there.
Yeah, that's right. You go back 15, 20 years ago, it was they were even a lot closer. The aero just wasn't thought of yet, so the disturbed air behind the car just wasn't a thing. Ground effect should be pretty sweet. Just hope that it doesn't ruin other aspects of the. I think the cars should be more stable, but hopefully the tyre stuff isn't. There's more to this tyre stuff. It's not boring. I think that's a concern that tyre wear won't be as effective.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. It's all going to be hearsay now.
It is. We're just speculating, of course. But so I think they sort of need to think about shortening the wheelbase of the car again as well. Like they're so long now. It's like driving an overpowered bus a lot of the time. So
100%.
Look, we'll see. Look, I'd love to see what next year's all about if we can just get there already, but not, this year's too exciting.
Exactly. And I think... with France this year, are they still using the chicane in the back straight? That little left-right section?
No different as far as they've only ever used 3 layouts, I think, of the 156 or something layouts they have, and it's the same as before.
How terrible. Why
I could be wrong, but...
I wish they would leave the Mistral alone and just leave it one continuous straight line.
They should just change the layout on it every time they go. Every time they go to Paul Ricard, they should just put a different layout out there. So, tell the teams what they're getting on Friday, and that's what you get.
We all hate it, but the teams love it. The technical challenge of the track. It's quite the teams. It's sort of like Barcelona, where they get a gauge on their car and that kind of thing. But
got a bit of everything.
Yeah, but then again, Spain's also boring to watch. So that's just the way they like it. We don't.
I still don't understand the point of their multicoloured runoff that they've got, the blue and the red.
It's actually different level of adhesion
to catch you.
Paint. So the paint, each different colour has a different I don't know what the technical word is
like
for
sand
it.
In it.
Different viscosity or whatever you want to call it for slowing you down. So the red is the most severe and the blue is not as severe. So that's the meaning behind the paint. I'm sure you could paint it whatever colour you wanted. French flag is blue and red, so blue, red and white. So there you go.
Martini Williams.
There you go.
Were they running that sort of stuff in Q8 when you were there?
We did have like absorption paint. All of the lines that are painted on the circuit are painted in the same paint, and our runoff areas were painted in the same paint where we didn't have gravel traps. So it's used most places around, like even the green stuff on the runoffs is absorption paint as well. It's just got a bit of extra friction than your normal. I think it might even be glass or something. I can't remember 100%, but that's what the meaning of the paints is.
They should make them slippery at Paul Ricard. That would be more entertainment.
There's enough runoff there.
Yeah, exactly. What do you reckon, boys? What's your tip for the weekend?
I'm going to have to go Mercedes this week, unfortunately. And I'm going to throw it to the underdog. I'm going to go Bottas because he's got a point to prove. And he does well.
Are we going to get
points to prove?
To whom it may concern, FU Mark 3?
Probably,
3.
As original as that is? 3, exactly. I don't know. I'm going to go the rebirth of Lewis. I think he needed to have that major kick in the pants from his own perspective, not strategy or anything of that related. Like, he had that human element where all of a sudden this might jolt him into action and make him lift another level again. I can't see how this track is not going to favour Mercedes performance-wise. But I also think Aston Martin are going to be up there with another point to prove as well. So I think it'll be a Mercedes engined track. So I'm going to call it 4. My top 4 will be Lewis, and then Red Bull, and then McLaren, and then Aston Martin.
All right.
Go on.
I think it'll be very temperature dependent. We've already seen it in Baku, so the tyre temp issue. I mean, obviously it was more of the slow corners that were causing them problems there, but if it's a cold day, they still have similar issues. So I think Mercedes on a cold day might not be at the front, but I'll probably agree with both of you. If it's a nice 30 degree, are you checking the weather?
I'm having a look,
If it's a nice 30 degree France day, but you might find Lando on the podium again. I don't think Valtteri's I don't think it's just not there at the moment. But yeah, I think Max and Checo will probably be second and third, and Lando, he'll be up there somewhere, and hopefully Daniel's better, but we'll see.
What do you do if you're Red Bull and Checo starts to outperform Max?
Like Christian Horner said after Baku, it's too early to pick a driver yet. So
So I'm just having a look at the weather here, and it is 70% chance of thunderstorms on Friday in Paris, 80% chance of thunderstorms on Saturday in Paris, and 80% chance of thunderstorms on Sunday in Paris.
We might get a race.
Oof.
So we might have some fun. Look, I'm not 100% sure how close the circuit is to Paris and whether that may change things.
It's
but
open, it's right in the middle. Yeah. That will bring Ferrari back into play. The mechanical grip in the wet would definitely be a factor.
Well, if it's a wet race, it could be anyone's. You could pick probably about a dozen people in the field that probably have a half a chance.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, mate. We've got Hidden Valley this week, the V8 Supercars. I spoke to Todd briefly as he was boarding a flight from Queensland going over to the NT. So he's just itching to get back behind the wheel, I think, and get racing again.
Do you order a pizza?
How good was that livery? How good was that livery? That was, for those that don't know, Todd runs a rolling sponsorship model with his car with Brad Jones, and Pizza Hut are come on board as a sponsor for a couple of rounds, I think.
Gosh, it looks cool.
It looked cool.
Yeah.
I actually said to him, I said, mate, are you going to have a model car with this? Because I said, I'm putting an order in now.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's like, oh, yeah, this, I reckon, fingers crossed. And I'm like, mate, it has to be done.
Yeah.
So I'll go as far as saying that's probably my favourite Commodore livery by a fair mile this year, outside of maybe the Irwin car as well. So that looked awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what it looks like on track. And if the livery looks... Well, if the results are as good as the livery, I think he's going to be in for a good weekend.
Yeah, they're running that super soft tyre as well, so plenty of tyre deg. Should be making for some interesting racing, and we saw what happened last time they were on the super soft at Sydney Motorsport Park. Him and Nick Percat had a few really strong race results, so tyre management is going to be key, and the way that they play their tyre strategy is going to be key. So it could be an interesting weekend with some mixed results.
Yeah, I think they're out tomorrow to do their practice sessions, so you'll get a fairly good read as to what their performances are going to be. But we've seen with BJR in the past, their practice form doesn't always translate into qualifying. They can never get to seem to turn the tyre on. So, but then race pace, they're probably
Strategy's there.
Yeah, strategy's there, but also race pace is very good too, in particular with Todd and Nick. So I would... it's too hard to read their form. You haven't got the confidence that they say they're going to nail it in qualifying. But I know Todd's been cutting a lot of laps in the kart over at Bundaberg as well to keep race sharp. So, and he's been super quick from what I understand, some light times on his CRG. So I think maybe this will probably be the chance where he's going to really turn his season around. And it hasn't been that bad considering the issues that he's had. But you'll really start to see some forward momentum, I'd say, from here on in as well. So, but I think more of the same. I think Tickford will be competitive. I think Triple Eight will always be up there.
Mostert.
Chaz is probably my pick for the weekend. I reckon
he's going to be flying high after signing a new deal as well. So
exactly.
He's got a lot of people to repay.
Which, but yeah, that also eliminates him from the Triple Eight seat market. Yeah. So. Hard to see how that's going to play out, but I think all evidence is kind of pointing to Brock at this stage. Maybe your Kostecki idea will
eventuate.
Will eventuate as well. But I
think Bathurst, the Brock thing, they'll let that happen, and then they'll
evaluate from there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Murphy and Stanaway with a return.
They've come back in now as well. Yeah,
and there's Team Kiwi talking about coming back.
Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Why not? You know what? Why not? It's a 55 car grid.
Yeah.
Like the more teams you've got, the merrier. I mean, why have a 20 car grid for the Bathurst 1000 for crying out loud? Do it. Have as many wild cards as you want. Heck, put the Super 2s and 3s in there. Why not?
Full wild cards.
I don't know about you guys, but on the Supercars YouTube channel, they're just posting old races flat out every day, and you can watch anything. I think that's why they're getting all these ideas. There's just, he was good.
We'll put them together.
Yep. I know, next week it'll be Ambrose.
Well, he's hanging around like a bad smell as well.
That's right. So he's waiting for someone to
It'll
say
be
something.
a DJR Ambrose special.
Dick will be in the car.
Exactly. We'll come back. So, look, I think it's great that like Richie Stanaway's back. I've always rated him as a driver. I just think he got given a raw deal with
absolutely.
circumstances at Gary Rogers, and then the equipment at Tickford with his car. It was an old car that he had. And first year in the series, but then you see his races when he was in the top end Tickford equipment like the Monster Car, or when he dominated the Super 2 race at Eastern Creek, and when he was driving the ice brake car, and he and Dean were the two fastest drivers at Sandown slicks on a wet weather track. So clearly the guy's got the pace, and as an open wheeler driver, he won races in GP2. So. You're winning races in GP2, you know how to steer a car.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So I hope the time away has been good for him, and I hope that he actually does prove that he's worthy of a seat, and a good one at that.
I think that Sandown win was straight enough proof. We all know now what it takes. You've got to have two strong drivers. You can't just win an enduro without... you've got to both be on the pace, and that win he had with... Waters was pretty impressive straight off the bat too, first one too. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's like the thing you've got to have. You're always going to be in a chance with a good finish being, say, somewhere in the top 10, especially when you've got a stacked field. That two drivers that are there or thereabouts, and the lap times are generally even amongst each other. Then you'll be you're always going to be there with a chance. So. The thing for those is going to be the testing that Greg Murphy in particular will do, because he hasn't been driven in a car for a few years, and Richie's been out of the game for a little while too.
So he's done a couple sessions here and there for
TV.
For some TV stuff. Most of them I think ended up being wet, but he still kept. I'm sure he's been doing something.
Yeah. You can't, but you know what? Class is like water, mate. It doesn't run out.
No, so exactly.
You've got it.
He was that good there. He could lose a couple tenths and still be there.
Yeah. Mate, what grinds your gears?
Mate, seriously, people that hog the right-hand lane.
Do you want to ring my girlfriend now? Yeah, she could do this for you.
Yeah.
Did you have some fun driving up the bend, do you?
No, not even to the bend. Like every morning when I go to work, I've got to go down the north-south corridor connector, and I don't know if you've driven it, but where you cross heading towards sort of Salisbury Way from the City Way, you go past the Brickworks Markets there, where that's your last traffic light. You go down the road a little bit more, and you just start to go down the hill, and then the road splits into 3 lanes, but you're already in the right lane, and then the lane that opens up is the right lane, so you go, I'm going to go down there, but no, Tailem Charlie thinks she's going to jump in there at 60 kilometres an hour until the second underbridge, and I just don't know why they've got to move over. They've got no reason. You're already in a lane. Why do you have to move into the right-hand lane as well just to sit in the right-hand lane? It is just absolutely driving me mental the last few weeks. And then you've got the same thing happening. You get to the 60 zone on the way back towards the city, and everyone wants the right-hand lane. No, just stay in your lane.
Preparing to turn for 10 kilometres time.
Exactly right.
You know what it is? I reckon they hear Hothead Harry, mate. He's in the lane. We'll just go in there to piss him off.
I'm left lane Larry at the moment. I just go around the outside.
Oh, man.
Lucky it's not in, Q8, because that emergency lane looks pretty good sometimes, and I just want to ride down there, and if I was in Q8, that's what I'd be doing. But that's grinding my gears. Right lane hogs, whether it's on the Northern Corridor, whether it's on the freeway up track, just
get out the way.
Get out the right-hand lane unless you're overtaking. You don't need to be there.
Yeah,
seriously.
I agree. I got nothing to add to that, mate. You got it perfectly. Anything grind your gears, mate, before we call it a night?
That was pretty good.
It's already called that.
It is already called that.
What movie was that from? We used to watch that movie all the time. That was our running joke. Carl Barron, that's it.
What grinds my gears? Myself. Haven't had a speeding fine for 15 years, I reckon. Long. I've had 4 since August. I've got 1 point left. I think I've given the government $2,000 to not fix our roads.
Speedy Simon.
The last one, I thought, I had 4 points at this time. I thought, I can, I'm good. And then cop comes out and they're hiding in places that you can't see them. How's that protecting everyone else that doesn't get pulled over? Like, you got to, they should be they should be visible to slow you down. They shouldn't be hiding and catching you, pulling out behind you. And so, I mean, fair enough, I'm biased because they've put me, I'm in the left lane for good now, for 3 years, just trying to be good. But yeah, they hiding police, hiding speed cameras. They should all be known. Everyone will slow down. Yeah, that grinds my gears. But it's more just a sad story that I got another fine. But so
grind my gears
offer
too.
to drive me anywhere. That's cool.
I probably owe you about 500 taxi trips.
Probably,
so
yeah.
I'll have to catch some up when you haven't got yours.
Yeah, lucky I live next door to work.
I reckon that's it, guys. I think we'll call it a night. I've got nothing to add to that. No gears to grind tonight. More like coffee to grind now because it's been a long week. But
it's not over yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only just beginning.
I know. We've got a very hectic weekend, I think, for sure. So, Simon, pleasure to have you, mate. It's been an awesome story, and I hope our listeners actually got a lot out of that. Definitely newfound respect from my end as well. And I think if anyone doesn't take anything away from from your story and what you bring to the table, probably should have a good look at themselves, I think, to be honest with you. But
appreciate that. But
No.
It's unique, I suppose. Like not everyone knows someone, but like I said before, if anyone we're at an event or whatever, ask me questions. I'll happily answer anything. Doesn't matter how stupid it is, whether it's like show me your scar or how'd the catheter go, like anything. I'll talk about anything. I've done it. So I'm sure there's worse things out there, but not many people will say that they've got a story like mine. So But in terms of the podcast, this has been good. I think this is cool.
Glad you had fun.
If anyone else gets asked to do it, do it. This is cool.
Yeah. Well, become a member, guys, if you want to have that opportunity and even get on the radio show. But www.sfcadelaide.com, and the opening sign that you see is become a member. So it's only $70. We'd love to have you on board and show your support, and you can meet guys like Simon and Leigh and myself, and have some bloody good fun along the way as well. So, on that note, I think we're done, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.